We see there are courses, can you pay me 30,000, I'll make you 1 crore.
Yes.
And every time, if you can make 1 crore, you don't need somebody to give 30,000 to you, right? But I'm not okay to put 1,000 rupees. How do you think, will there be a shift of mind?
Advice is almost never truly free. There's always indirect payment in some way or the other.
Hi, this is Borate, Deputy Editor of Mint. I'm Archana Elapavuluri, co-founder of Pickright. At Pickright, are looking at creating a complete end-to-end finance, investment, inclusion for the next billion users of India. So let us dive deep into how the SEBI regulations are currently shaping up and what are the next steps in India towards investing. And he's here to talk about the SEBI regulations and how the digital wealth tech platforms are transforming the wealth industry in India. Thank you, Neil, for joining at Pickright.
Thanks, Archana.
Neil, let us know, what do you think of the finfluencers right now? What we have seen, there is a huge impact on the finfluencers and there is news everywhere. What do you think of the whole saga happening? Any opinions out here?
So, Archana, if we go back into how finfluencers rose to prominence, it was mostly because of the pandemic. People were stuck at home. Suddenly, videos and social media took off in finance. And you had a few individuals amass vast followings, lakhs of followers, millions of followers, and therefore vast power to influence how people's lives turn out at the end of the day. And all of this was Wild West. There was absolutely no regulation on anything. And naturally, when you have this kind of situation, there will be malpractices, and there were malpractices. So, what we pointed out in our initial article that we did earlier this year is to ask the question, who is funding the finfluencers? And we found it was reasonably easy because all of this is on their social media posts, the affiliate links, the partners, etc. So we found that it was mostly the brokers who were doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Now the problem with that is that when you have income which is linked to a broker commission or a brokerage,
Mm-hmm.
You have every incentive to create videos that have more trading. Your users do more trading.
Induced to it.
More
Exactly.
trading, and you get a cut out of every single trade. So that's one issue that came up. Some people went to the next level and started putting out fake screenshots, fake videos. The brokers responded by putting out these verified, so Zerodha's verified PNL feature was launched, but that also got gamed because some people would use fake apps.
Anything can be morphed nowadays.
Anything can be morphed.
Yeah. Nothing is immune to any.
Correct.
Yeah, exactly.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, to sort of summarize my overall view on influencers, I think this trend cannot be unwound, nor should it be unwound, because yes, it has spread awareness about the market and interest in the market to a very large section of society which traditional media could not reach, which traditional intermediaries could not reach. But there absolutely have to be safeguards, and thankfully SEBI is on the path of creating those safeguards.
Yeah. No. It's very interesting you mentioned upon that they did create awareness, right? So now in this current scenario, let us see if there is a mechanism, a regulation, safeguarding, whatever comes into the whole picture. How do you think? There will be definitely a void in that space. Not everybody can become an influencer or overnight. They really did work in the last 3-4 years and they amassed these million followers or more than that. And we cannot even ignore what they have brought onto the table, right? They really got into awareness. If you see, of course, crypto is in shambles, but crypto, even we know right from the cart puller to everybody in COVID, you must be knowing, everybody spoke about crypto.
Yeah.
Everyone wanted to take loan and invest in crypto, right? Because everything really, the awareness part of it cannot be ignored, and the educational part, though there were advantages, disadvantages, there are both sides of it. So how do you say this, and will SEBI be interested in creating a framework on what needs to be spoken, or will there be an exam again for an influencer who can become an influencer? How do you see that actually?
So what SEBI has currently proposed in the consultation paper is that they would cut off or separate the regulated financial entities, so brokers, RAs, RIAs, mutual funds, from influencers who are unregulated. This is a consultation paper, and I think it's along the right lines because SEBI as a regulator, cannot stop freedom of speech. That is guaranteed to us by the Constitution of India. And not only that, but it's important that we retain that freedom of speech for the market itself to function.
Exactly.
For example, if you and I have a different view on a particular stock, I should be able to voice my view without having to jump through 10 hoops. As long as it's just me voicing a view on the stock, it's not me trying to do the business of an investment advisor. So, to come back to your question on what might eventually happen. So, SEBI has laid out the principle here. Now, what I think it will fructify into is, of course, there cannot be a total ban because essentially that would stop all advertising from all regulated financial entities. Instead, I think eventually SEBI will allow this advertising to go through, but only to influencers who are abiding by a certain code of conduct, who are not, for example, somebody who is outright promoting crypto. Such a person might not be considered kosher in ultimately what comes out. So my hope is that there is a reasonable code of conduct that's laid out, which whoever complies with that should be able to get advertising revenue, tie-ups, etc. And that should be properly disclosed in all these videos, in all of these posts. It's really important that they should be compelled to mention that it is a sponsored post or a sponsored video if it indeed has been paid for.
Yeah, I hear you. And so when you say that every individual should be able to express their opinions, views, not going through 10 hoops, right? Where do we draw a fine line? Because that's exactly the challenge today. Where for me it can be a view, for SEBI it can be a inducement or an influence. So, and again, when SEBI sets up rules or framework, if it is vague or if it is undefined, the gray areas. So the bigger question or the challenge what companies would face when they are working with finfluencer, what is right or wrong. Accordingly, than telling what not to be done, if SEBI can lay out what needs to be done or what should be used, would be a better way. In my personal opinion, again, quote unquote, I think that.
So I will differ a little bit with you on that because if SEBI says that influencers can only use these words and not these words, it would be tantamount to restricting freedom of speech. I think the legal extent that SEBI can go to is to say that these are the things you should not be doing, and some of these are no-brainers, honestly. So if SEBI were to lay down that if you are signing up to a code of conduct, then you simply cannot promote an unregulated product like crypto, right? I don't think we'll have too many people disagreeing with such a proposition.
Yeah.
Or if SEBI were to say that if you are paid by somebody, then you have to label it clearly. So if you're doing a 60-second video, you have to give at least 5 seconds saying that this is an advertisement. I think that's a reasonable thing that's followed in industries around the country. So it's not that we want there's some kind of tight control or censorship to be there. It's just that investors, consumers, they should not be harmed in the process of influencing.
Okay. There's definitely somewhere investors' protection needs to be, that should be the priority, right? That brings to my next question. So we did not see an exponential growth on the RIA number, right? 4 years back when Pickright, we were starting, the RIAs were around 1000, and today we see they are at least, actually they are coming down, they are around 900, right? So, but whenever we see that SEBI really is interested in bringing as many RAs or RIAs onto the table, and we are at 1.4 billion population, and how do we bring, there is a complete disparity on the RIA and the population.
Yeah, so absolutely, this is the burning issue. I think this is the most important issue today in finance in India, because we are as a country creating wealth, but we don't have a body of people who are regulated and who can advise
Absolutely.
on how to manage that wealth.
Exactly.
And in fact, chairperson herself in a recent interaction with RIs said that there should at least be 1 billion advisors in India. So why have RIs not grown? And the short answer is that they are burdened with far too much regulation.
Mm-hmm.
There are minute rules prescribing all kinds of things which are very, very hard to comply with. So a couple of points which ARIA, which is the association itself, has pointed out. Just to be a person associated with financial advice or assisted to an RIA, you have to have a postgraduate degree in certain subjects only of 2 years, and you have to have 2 years of experience. Both of these are problematic because you can even have IIMs who have a 1-year degree.
Absolutely.
Or even this post-graduation thing doesn't make too much sense, because to get postgraduates, you have to then pay a lot more.
Mm.
So ARIA said, why not just allow graduates, provided of course that they pass the NISM 10A 10B exam. Experience requirement again is problematic because to be an RIA, you need experience, but how do you get the experience unless you work for it?
No, it's a catch-22.
It's a catch-22.
Everywhere we see a SEBI regulation, right, there is always a catch-22. How do you break that? And today when we look into it, right, so the core problem Pickright is trying to solve is, we want to bring financial inclusion to every other person, to me, to my employees, to people who are even running a small business. But today unfortunately, the financial planning word, whenever we go and talk to people, they say, I only earn 20,000, 30,000, 50,000 a month. I don't need financial planning. Because the way it is hardwired is, unless you are a HNI, unless you have a certain set of net worth, you don't need an RIA or so. But that is not how the whole country, because for us, the inclusion has to come right from the lower level to upper level. That is where the digital boom, that is where, and I think that is exactly what these finfluencers, that is the gap where finfluencer actually has caught up. And the whole, whether you call it as a mayhem or whether you call the whole
and Archana, I'll tell you why this is so dangerous for our country as a whole. It's not just a niche problem that affects people in the industry or people in the financial media. When you have unregulated people like influencers directing the flow of capital,
exactly,
it gets misallocated. So the money that should have flowed into India's growing companies flows into crypto instead.
I completely agree, and that is exactly my pain too. I share that pain. In Pickright, we really struggle, try. We say that these are the RAs, come, plan, invest. But the same people looking at a influencer, they are ready to park 1 lakh there, losing money without a pain. And when there is a genuinity involved, there is a challenge. So how do we, so somewhere I feel RIAs or RAs, there should be influencer level knowledge where they should be able to connect to the individuals. How do we drive that, right? How do we create that framework? I think that is a bigger challenge for SEBI, talking to wealth tech companies like us, and obviously you're working with them. But how do you think that gap is going to be filled?
It's a very, very difficult task. I think it needs certain imagination of regulations. So, for example, one tweak that can be made is that if a influencer is asked on social media for personalized advice, let's say that they make a video about mutual funds, and then somebody says, which mutual fund should I buy? Now, currently, there is no prohibition from that influencer answering this question because there is no exchange of money.
Exactly.
Now that if there was just a small requirement that the influencer must end any such free advice given by a simple line saying, please go to an RIA for detailed advice on this subject, I think something as small as that can start a revolution. It just needs imagination of how this can be done without putting an end to freedom of speech. If we say that they can't say it at all, then we will have a problem of, you know, an entire swath of people being just gagged. Nobody wants that. What we want is for the consumers to be served.
Yeah, so yeah, that brings me to another topic which I had in my mind. This is what our experience has taught, and we have seen in various experiments also. People are not really ready to part with money for any advice, but they are okay to buy 1,000 rupees dish, try it out, and if it is not good, they are okay with just writing one bad review and leaving it there, right? And when it comes to when I have to plan how my 1 lakh is to be saved, I'll rather go to a fin influencer on a YouTube, look at it because the advice is free and I'm okay to lose the money. Whether I'm okay or not, the end result, we all know what has happened in the past 2 years during the COVID time. But I'm not okay to put 1,000 rupees. How do you think, will there be a shift of mind, and how does actually RAs see, we were RIA, we have given up RIA, we know it is very difficult, but I want to understand from your side, how do we actually take this forward?
Advice is almost never truly free. There's always indirect payment in some way or the other. Either it is that some person has paid the influencer to create the video and it's not even disclosed, or it is that some broker has done an arrangement where ultimately the client, the follower is induced to trade and pay the broker. Unfortunately, because people can't see these costs, they think it's free. So I think the solution is a change in public mindset, and that is slowly happening in a general level. So if you think of us paying for Netflix subscriptions or Amazon Prime, that is slowly getting ingrained. With finance also, whatever little RI profession there is, they are sustaining on the basis of fees. So I think this is going to accelerate as our investor base matures. It will need a few regulatory pushes, I think, if not now, then at least in the future, where some of these products which look like they're free, but those costs need to be told to the consumer, like an insurance policy. Right now, an agent is not obliged to tell you what their commission is, but they have to be, because those commissions are sky high.
Direct and indirect mutual funds.
Yes, exactly. And once some of these regulatory pushes do happen, then I think we will be on a healthy path when it comes to paying fees.
Yeah, definitely pushes and nudges go a long way, because changing a public mindset is a humongous task.
Something as simple as the SEBI mandate on brokers to disclose that 89% traders don't make money. So
that's a very powerful thing.
Yeah.
And that itself shows that whatever influencers are claiming, like we see there are courses, pay me 30,000, I'll make you 1 crore.
Yes.
And every time, if you can make 1 crore, you don't need somebody to give 30,000 to you, right?
So if you think of that recent SEBI order against this channel called BAP of Charts, where SEBI mentioned that this influencer was making a loss in his trading.
Yeah.
He claimed that trading was his full-time occupation and courses were part-time, but he was making a loss on his trading and the profit on the courses. So it brings that.
Exactly, right. So obviously, see, if you can make 1 crore every month, why do you need to even train? You should be actually doing it as a full-time and make it more.
Correct.
Right. And yeah, so sum it up, I really see where you are coming from. Putting disclaimers, setting up as a sponsored thing, even setting up that this is being paid by this particular company, or this is where I made losses, everything as a disclaimer, right? And making it more of an awareness and an information thing rather than an influencing and inducing thing. There can be a path to the mindset change where people start respecting that financial knowledge is not an easy thing. If somebody is an RIA, they have really worked very hard to have that particular skill and that respect they need in that particular part of it, right? Advisory is not everybody's game.
Yeah, I have a very simple rule of thumb here.
Go ahead.
The more entertaining a financial video, the less likely it is to give actual information or actual insights. And that is that sort of arbitrage of influencers. They make it extremely entertaining. They sing, they dance, they crack jokes, but that comes at the expense of actually explaining what risk is, because finance is an inherently boring subject.
I was about to say that how do you, but the common people need an entertaining way for the finance to be told, because no one wants a boring topic, right? And finance itself is such a boring, not only boring, it is scary. People, anything which has a negative connotation to it, people don't want to hear it, we shut it out, right? Somebody telling you don't have any money to retire, you don't have any money to have a healthy life, we don't want to listen to it. It's okay, I get a loan or I get immediate instant gratification, let me go and buy an ice cream. Why should I pay 2,000 to go and invest somewhere in a mutual fund? Let me go and buy a 2,000 rupees ice cream. My gratification levels, right? So how do you, so you really brought the right point, right? Finance inherently is boring. So it is directly proportional. The more entertaining, it is less valuable.
Yeah.
The more boring, it is more valuable.
Yes.
But how do you strike a balance there? How do you get the common public to come and know about finance?
It's a difficult one. But like I said, a small regulatory nudge, for example, which says that at the end of every video, put a statement saying, for detailed information, go to an RIA. Here's the link of a directory of RIA.
So on the same note, I just want to emphasize that when there is something coming for free, please be vigilant on why it is coming for free. And for financial advice, please don't go for free, because financial advice is something which is very important because it involves your money, hard-earned money. So that's emphasis which I really want to bring in this podcast, because Pickright is a wealth tech company, and there are few wealth tech companies which are really striving hard, where we are bringing in all the SEBI regulated RIAs and RAs onto the platform, where you can actually plan with them, talk to them, and better save. So budgeting, saving, investing is a path of journey which everyone has to take, and financial inclusion is Pickright's dream. So on that, Neil, thank you so much for emphasizing on the same thing, right? Everything has a price tag, right? So continuing on, bringing back Pickright and wealth tech companies, I want to actually know, how do you think the current digital, the tech companies, right, post-COVID era companies, which are into the fintech space, and you have seen boom in this space, how do you think this will shape up the landscape of India's next billion user in the finance field? What do you think? How do these actually help in the?
Just as what happened in broking, that there was a migration of market share from traditional players to innovators, to disruptors, the same thing will play out in this space also. Today, if you think of it, most of the market is still held by banks and bank RMs. And you have a generation of people who are still used to going to the bank. I have an elderly uncle who lives in my building. He goes to the bank once a week for no reason other than to update a passbook and have chai with the bank RM there.
The relationship aspect, right?
But I haven't been to a bank branch in the past 3 years. So I think that is set to change, and increasingly the fintechs will take market share.
Yeah, because for you, for your generation, bank is a digital thing. Your money is digital.
Yes.
For the earlier generation, bank is a physical thing, which is a touch and feel. So slowly, the even investment will be a digital space rather than a touch and feel where you go, right? So, but honestly, I strongly feel the trust actually started building with the touch and feel in the investment. But now digital companies need to really bridge that gap between how they can build up the trust of each individual. So RIAs play a major role in the whole thing. And then to bring the emphasis back and the focus on RIA, the finance planning is not for high net worth individuals. It is for you and me. Finance is everyone. Finance is there in every part of life. If we go and buy vegetables, there is finance. If we go and buy something, there is finance. If you travel, there is finance. If you go and buy ice cream, there is finance.
I fully agree. So, couple of recent stories that we have done, we have done stories that go down to the level of, is a Swiggy or a Zomato subscription worth it? To, what is the cost of having a child?
Exactly.
Or if you have elderly parents, what does it cost to take care of them? Are there old age homes? A whole bunch of questions that we don't think of traditionally as being finance topics.
Yeah, so that is what, right? Whenever I see, everything is finance. There is money involved in everything. Though we don't see it, but money makes many things and everything nowadays, right? So yeah, so conclusion, what I would like to draw from this is, definitely SEBI is working towards creating a complete holistic framework where RIAs can actually thrive, and we want to see more RIAs coming, because for the next 1 billion users, investment needs to be, there should be a conducive environment where people should be freely coming and able to talk to RIAs or come to the platforms and start investing. And that is what Pickright is hoping. And Pickright today is very proud to say that we are creating a complete end-to-end financial planning platform where you have RIAs and RAs, multi-asset platform investing. And I want everyone to go check out what Pickright is, because it is you, me and finance at the end of the day. Finance is everywhere. Thank you, Neil, for coming to Pickright, and it's absolute pleasure talking to you and knowing more about how this landscape is changing.
Pleasure being here, Archana.
Thank you.